I have an update on how much money baby Seven has raised for his scholarship with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Ever since Seven passed in August, we have had some of his merch available for people to purchase, and 100% of the profit from that merch is going towards the Seven Scholarship Endowment with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, to keep that scholarship going forever. And so I do have the September total for the profit that was raised in his name that will be donated to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And that is $33,000 more. We've decided to keep that Seven merch available probably through the year, and we will continue doing this. We will continue donating that profit towards his scholarship. We are so grateful to everyone. We are so grateful to the things that have come from Seven's life in the time that he was here on earth. And with that being said, we are picking back up with the Vol Vet Review. So with this episode, we are back with Dr. Tina Ursini, who was the lead on Seven's case. And she is starting a new little series about imaging, about diagnostic imaging, and explaining what all goes into that. So we're talking x-rays and ultrasounds and things like that. So I'm going to give it over to Dr. Tina Ursini for this episode of the Vol Vet Review.
All right, we're back. Another episode of the Vol Vet Review. You're back with me, Dr. Tina Ursini, here from the University of Tennessee. We're going to talk about different aspects of diagnostic imaging and kind of the run-of-the-mill, the front door, what you'll get in the general practice, and then we'll talk a little bit more about advanced imaging going forward and what other options we have once we talk through some of the limitations of these basic ones that everybody likes to use. So first we're going to talk about x-rays. X-rays technically are made by this x-ray generator. And then, by definition, the x-rays fly through the air. And so x-rays are going to fly through the air and then shoot and land on this detector plate. And anything that we put in front of the plate is what's going to show up on that detector. So the body is going to absorb different aspects of the x-rays as they come through. The detector is going to detect what comes through to the other side and what doesn't, and then it's going to generate an image. So if we were to take that radiograph right there, and again, this is technically the radiograph. Everybody likes to call it x-rays, but I was trained that, again, x-rays fly through the air to create a radiograph. So you see that some x-rays flew all the way across and landed on the detector and didn't hit anything, so they stay really black. As they hit certain things, so the shoe would reflect a lot of x-rays, that would show up really white. So this is an example of a horse that had a shoe on, took a radiograph, and so you can see at first in the start of the limitations of radiographs to begin with. So we take a three-dimensional object and put it on a two-dimensional screen. So we're already limiting ourselves a little bit on what we can see. How we get around that is we take what we call orthogonal views. So we're not just going to stop with this radiograph. We're going to go ahead and take a different view. So now we're going to pretend that the horse is standing, still on the block so that we can see the bottom. But now we're going to take this way. So it's a different view of the same structure, getting a three-dimensional thing on a two-dimensional image. We still have a lot of superimposition, so you can see even in the foot, there's a lot of intricate details and shapes of these bones. Nothing is straight, nothing is square, thank you, nature. So we get a lot of superimposition, again, as those x-rays just fly straight through the structure that we're looking at. Other things that x-rays will be prone to is we can also take an x-ray like this and shoot down this way, so we can demonstrate that quickly. If I can get the trigger. And so we'll take it down like this, again, in hopes of pulling any superimposition off of the, off of structures and highlight different structures. But that still limits us because what we can't see is, gas artifacts will shadow over the top. Metal implants, we can see some shadowing and whatnot. It blocks some structures, so if there's a shoe that blocks certain areas to the foot, we can't necessarily see it. So this is why, and you're starting to see the importance of why we need advanced imaging going forward. So that'll be in the next installment. We're also going to talk basically about diagnostic ultrasound as well. So most practices, small animal, large animal, they will have, an ultrasound that we can pull out of the closet and get images on. And what ultrasound is really great at is mostly soft tissue. So what happens is there's an ultrasound wave made in this machine. It comes down the cord, comes out of the handpiece into a structure of interest. It hits something. That ultrasound beam reflects back. So this is also it sends ultrasound but also receives them. And then again, depending on how far and how long it took for that ultrasound beam to come back to, it puts a mark on the screen. So here we can see, I'm just going to pretend myself. Humans actually ultrasound quite well. So you can see as there's various muscles there on the screen, and what we're doing is we're taking a slice. So if you think of the end of the transducer as a slice, and it's sending, again, making an image like this of everything it can see up until it hits bone. And then everything else is an artifact. So ultrasound waves cannot travel through air. They cannot travel through bone. So that's what really limits us a lot of times on, if you're, especially in large animal for musculoskeletal stuff, small animal, dogs, cats, if your veterinarian asks if they can clip your animal, hair, its primary goal is to trap air against the body to keep you warm, right? But if it traps air, then we can't really see through it very well either. So that's the main limitation of ultrasound. Also, you appreciate that we're taking these little tiny slices, and yeah, in our brains we can stack them up and we can kind of reconstruct that, but we really don't have the full 3D reconstruction abilities to see the whole structure. And you can appreciate like things like the head, where that would be really important. So we get a lot of dental disease. Dogs, cats, horses all get a lot of dental disease, and you can appreciate that these two modalities, taking thin slices that can't see through bone, which is the ultrasound, doesn't really have a lot of work to do here, doesn't help us too much in diagnosing things. Radiographs, we can take radiographs and they're great, but look at all the superimposition, right? So no matter where we put this plate, we stick it here, we've got the sinuses full of air over the top of all the teeth. We come to the side, we've got teeth on top of teeth, on top of teeth, on top of teeth. And so that's where, again, having a way to cross-sectionally image with advanced imaging is really important. So we're going to talk about that next, and hope you have a great day.
So thank you to Dr. Ursini for continuing to educate and to continue this educational series. Let us know what else you would like to hear about in depth, to learn about, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Vol Vet Review.